My name is Viter. They call me the Wind Catcher because I chase the winds of adventure. Today, I have arrived at the Pacific Shore. It's a place where humid, tropical forests cover the highest peaks of the Andes Mountains, where Aboriginal Indians live side by side with the descendants of Spanish conquistadors. The air is thin and it's difficult to breathe, but the views are simply stunning. This country, Ecuador, was named for the equator that cuts through it. Right now, I'm in the capital city of Quito. Quito is a very multicultural city. You can meet tourists and travelers here from all over the world, among the native Spanish and Quechua-speaking Indians and mestizos. Right now, I'm at a height of about 3 kilometers above sea level, just a few kilometers from the equator. Below me, I can see Quito, the capital city of Ecuador. And somewhere, there it is, the purpose of our journey here, the equator. Quito is widely considered one of the most vivid cities in South America. Several different cultures and traditions are mixed and mingled here, blending into an amazing kind of harmony. Spanish, Dutch, and even pre-Columbian architectural motifs are viewable throughout the city, offering a unique look at the styles of different eras. Here, you can stroll along a block filled with American styles, but take the next turn and you'll find yourself on more narrow Latin streets, with unique houses, abbeys, and chapels made from sun-baked brick. Ordinarily, tourists who wish to become better acquainted with Quito order tours around the city's sights. But I've elected for something a little different. I'm going to climb and get a bird's eye view of the city from above. We're at a height of approximately 4 kilometers now and still ascending. I have to remind myself not to look down. There behind me, we can see the great city of Quito. It's such a stunning sight. In my whole life, I've never seen a view like this. It's just unbelievably beautiful. We have just passed 4 kilometers above sea level. At this height, the oxygen is very thin and makes breathing difficult, so our progress is very, very slow. But it's so amazing up here. I almost believe I could throw a stone and knock on heaven's door. It's been said that every city has its own character, a soul all on its own. My travels have taught me how true that is, but I believe Quito is special. The land and the people possess an undeniable charm. The rhythm of life here feels so different from the rest of the world, and it seems easy to lose yourself in it. Here, in the center of the world, the sky feels almost within reach. 1736, a French expedition determined the exact location of the equator as it passed directly through the center of suburban Quito. Today, any taxi driver in the city can take you to the monument that marks the precise location, a sign with the 4 cardinal directions, and a line that divides the world in half. Each year, thousands of tourists flock to the city so they can proudly proclaim that they have stood at the center of the world. This is the location where the equator is officially marked in Quito, but according to my GPS, it's not the genuine equator. Thousands of tourists come to visit the equator every year, but usually, this is as far as they get. The real thing is somewhere nearby, and we're going to search for it now using the GPS. I almost believed I'd finally achieved my goal, that I'd managed to stand on both halves of the earth at once. It had seemed so easy. But now, I've realized the true equatorial line is somewhere else, and that means I have to keep searching for it. As my journey continues, I can't help admiring the beautiful city and the lush surrounding wilds. Early 18th century technology wasn't quite as accurate as it is today. It was very difficult to precisely measure the line down to the seconds and geographical coordinates, so it's not too surprising that scientists originally misplaced the equator by 3 or 4 kilometers. Navigating the narrow streets of Quito to the destination marked by my GPS, but mainly driven just by my senses, I'm headed to where the real equator must be. Once again, I've learned the lesson that real travelers should never place their full faith in tour guides or even geographical maps completely. Everything must be verified. I'm getting closer and closer to the real equator now. The very line that separates north and south. The line that divides the globe in half. 3, 2, 1. Equator! Finally! Now, imagine the equator crosses through your house. Your kitchen is in the northern hemisphere, and your bedroom is in the southern hemisphere. If you want to eat, you've got to shift from one hemisphere to the other, just to have a snack. Here it is, the equator, 00. I'm on the official geographical equator. I'm sitting on the equator, right on it. On one side is the southern hemisphere, on the other, there's the northern one. I don't know which side is which. I'm just sitting here, eating peas. It tastes so good at the moment. Have you ever eaten peas on the equator? No? I have. So, I'm sitting here, and I'm thinking, here's an old house, right in front of me. It must cost about $500. I might buy it, just to have a house on the equator. I could tell everyone, I've got a house on the equator. The equator is a unique sort of place. Things can happen here that simply aren't possible in any other location in the world. Of course, modern science has long since explained such anomalies, but anyone who comes to Ecuador has to experience them for themselves. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick with an egg. Here you go. Would you look at that? It's standing on end. Yes, you see, because we're on the equator, the power of Earth's gravity is just a tiny bit weaker here. I've struggled with this trick for, I don't know, a half an hour, and I've broken loads of eggs. But I finally succeeded in setting this one up. Don't try this at home, you'll just waste your eggs. Oh, and I've just learned something very interesting. The lady has informed me that women with larger breasts have an easier time carrying them here. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to find out if that's true or not. But that's not the only trick the equator has in store for me. And now, I'll show you another trick, which can only be performed on the equator. You see, when you're on the northern or the southern hemispheres, draining water forms a clockwise or counterclockwise vortex. But here on the equator, it doesn't form a vortex at all. Another note of interest is that while you're on the equator, it's very difficult to walk in a straight line. The northern and southern hemispheres are constantly pulling you to one side or the other. It's strange because as far back as I can remember from geography lessons in school, it is supposed to be very hot on the equator. But surprisingly enough, it's quite cool in Quito. The myth about the equatorial heat has barely even crossed my mind since the moment I arrived here. But even so, I still don't have a full picture of just how unusual Ecuador really is. Soon, that slight chill in the air is going to become genuinely cold because I'm heading into the mountains. I can already see the distant snow-capped summits. I honestly can't believe I'm actually going to touch real snow on the equator. Ecuador's national means of transportation is called body. It's how natives travel all over the country. It's quite comfortable. It's not too hot, not too cool, just a bit of rain on your head, and it's cheap. The driver was headed to a local village, which is where I got off. His car isn't powerful enough to handle the rough terrain on the trail to one of the highest summits in Southern America, so I've got to find another ride. I need a rugged vehicle with strong tires and all-wheel drive that can make it uphill in rain, snow, or any other rough weather. And the weather around here will change with every kilometer we ascend. Right before we entered the village, we encountered a great pile of stones blocking the road. We had to get out and clear the road with our own hands. The driver explained that the roadblock was a common trap. Bandits cover the roads with stones, then rob cars that have stopped at night. Luckily for us, we got by safely. We learned that the village we visited is actually famous for its beverage, vodka made with sugarcane. It's cultivated nearby, then run through a simple device and sold to visitors like me, taken to Quito for sale, or just enjoyed by the villagers themselves. I'm at the top of a volcano, Mount Pululawa. 2,500 years ago, there was a huge eruption and a great amount of lava flowed down the mountainside. After the lava cooled, the Indians came and settled in the area. This place is perfectly protected from the cold winds by the mountains on all sides. The ground at the bottom of the crater is still heated by flowing magma, which is why people live there these days. I asked a local man if it was frightening to live at the base of a powder keg. He said, sure it was, but they grow a very good fruit here.
Para poder sembrar, eso es bueno ya.
We were told that somewhere around here we could buy alcohol made here on the equator. Now they're going to show us some kind of process. I'm not sure what it's for exactly. Even a little kid knows how to operate one of these Mountain Dew devices. Well, they promised us vodka, but looks like we're drinking bamboo juice instead. Wow, it's delicious. I was told that since it's so sweet, it needs some lemon juice to gut the sweetness, but actually it's got a really strong flavor, quite wicked. And now they're bringing us Equatorial Mountain Dew. It's Mountain Dew made with sugarcane right here on the equator. It's actually recommended by the Ministry of Public Health. Very good for you. Good. As I was drinking the local vodka, a man came over and offered to guide me to the summit of the mountain, visible in the distance. Now, I'm heading there to see a genuine paradox, snow on the equator, with my own eyes. The name of the mountain we're headed for is Cayambe. Right now, I'm watching Quito grow smaller in the Jeep's rearview mirror as we speed away toward our next destination. From this distance, its roads remind me of a colorful serpent winding around the high hills in a smooth spiral. It's incredibly beautiful, but it's also a dangerous beauty. The city is located on the slope of the Pichincha volcano, the second most active volcano in Ecuador. So as you can imagine, living here is literally an explosive experience. It's quite frightening to look down from here. Down below, just a few meters from us, there's a steep drop-off. With every meter we ascend, I seem to like it less and less. This idea of climbing up onto the rooftop of the world. For the first 15 minutes, I admit I felt sort of like a super traveler, tough and rugged. But now the excitement has worn off and all I want is to get back to a more sensible height as soon as possible. But we didn't undertake this journey because it would be easy, so we'll keep going on. The equator is still waiting for us up ahead. Every half hour, it seems to get colder. I can feel it. At the beginning, down below, it was hot. The sun was shining. Now here, the cold winds, you just can't ignore it. Further up, I can see rain clouds. It makes me doubt that I'll be able to sit around for half an hour. I'll have to warm up somehow. I definitely wouldn't have driven up here in the dark. Not for love nor money. As we ascend further, every half kilometer or so, the landscapes change dramatically. At first, there were lots of big trees, but the higher we go, the trees grow smaller and smaller. Now, the only flora in sight is the odd weed here and there. In Ecuador, silver grows right on the trees. Little by little, bright green fields give way to rough, sloped surfaces covered with dry, yellow grass. As we go higher, there will be even less green, and it will be even colder. The soil here is mixed with volcanic gravel left behind after past eruptions, and water quickly freezes into ice. If someone had asked me for one word to describe Ecuador, I would have said vertical. A very unique microclimate has formed here because Ecuador extends all the way from sea level to more than 6 kilometers up. In the lower cities, it's very warm, but the temperature decreases with every kilometer ascended. In the same way, the flora and fauna change drastically between altitudes. As a result, travelers can feel as though they've been all over the world just by visiting this single country. We've met some fellow travelers along our journey. Their car suffered a breakdown further down the trail, but ours is still in great shape, so they're going to join us as we continue our climb. Now the journey is not so boring. We've picked up some hitchhikers, 2 tourists who have come all the way from Japan to visit the equator. The roads of life cross frequently in this country. All different sorts of people can meet here, and Ecuador welcomes each one. I've got to hold the gear stick because on steep passes, it gets knocked out of place.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Suerte. Gracias.
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 Mucha suerte.
Claro.
The Japanese tourists have taken care to equip themselves with the right gear, and now we're gonna do likewise. To the equator. Let's go. Giant, lonely blocks of ice. They're so close now. Climbing becomes more and more difficult with every step. Slippery rocks beneath my feet complicate our journey, and the possibility of an avalanche only intensifies the fear. One wrong move and you'll fall for kilometers. I still remember the words of the driver who advised me not to risk my life, because the effects of global warming have made avalanches more common. Thinking about that certainly makes me anxious, but there's no going back now. We've been hearing strange sounds, cracks and clicks. We couldn't figure out what it was, and now I can see chunks of ice breaking off and crashing down. You won't believe where I am now. On the equator. Well, almost. I'm just a few seconds away. The equator is just up ahead, but I'm not climbing up there because ice chunks are breaking loose and falling down. And the guide who brought us, he doesn't dare go any further. He warned us that not so long ago, someone was killed here by falling ice. But I've made it this far. I flew for miles, clear from the other end of the world, and it took me ages to get here, but I climbed all the way up here to see this. You know, during my travels when I was flying or driving or climbing, there were moments when I thought, why the hell am I doing this? But now I'm here, on the equator, and I understand why I've done it. Standing here, on the center of the world, at an altitude of 5 kilometers, I have a wish. I wish, and I hope, that all your dreams will come true, and that you'll never, ever regret them. The length of the equator is 40,000 kilometers. It circles the whole globe through hundreds of cities and countries, and it's a strange and miraculous thing. But snow on the equator can only be found in a handful of places, and I've just been to one of them. I'm gonna write down a note now, and I want to put it in this empty bottle. I feel a bit dizzy, whether from the high altitude, or the beauty surrounding me, or the emotions within me, I don't know. A shard of ice that has been lying here for perhaps thousands of years is now melting in my hands. Find this bottle and follow the directions on the letter. Ecuador is a wondrous land of fire and ice, a place of north and south, a place of beauty and ferocity. Life here isn't always easy, but it's worth the effort. I will always remember Ecuador as a place with great atmosphere and little oxygen.